And welcome back to Brussels for the second part of Talking Europe. Now, it's time for a big interview, and to open this new season of programs, I'm glad to be joined by one of the most influential and outspoken members of the European Parliament, Daniel Cohn-Bendit. This Franco-German politician first rose to fame in 1968 when he led the Paris student uprising. Now, Danny the Red, as he was known at the time, has long since become Danny the Green. He's currently the head of the Green Group here in the European Parliament. Mr. Cohn-Bendit, it's a pleasure to have you and welcome to our show.
Hi.
Now, we saw this week the European market stumble, a clear sign that speculators, or let's call them maybe not speculators, but investors rather, I should say, don't trust Europe, don't trust that Europe will overcome the latest Euro crisis. You recently said that European leaders deserve to be rated 000. Is Europe currently paying the price for its political inaction and paralysis?
It's one of the price that Europe is paying. You're absolutely right. I think that since the beginning of the financial crisis, the Europe made steps in the right direction, but always too late. So, like Gorbachev said, if you are late, history will hit you, and this is a problem of Europe, that we arrived always too late. But, investors or speculators, they should be afraid of themselves. Because if you see, the story of the speculation, investment, it wasn't Europe with the subprime crisis, it was the crisis of the financial system. So I'm afraid also from the financial system, the non-regulation of the financial system. And I find it, this market, the market, who is the market? It's a crazy, it is sometimes it's only a technical thing because, it's not a human decision most of the time. It is, they make it's a mathematic formula. If something going down, then everybody sells and everybody buy, but they don't buy it by human decision. They buy it and sell by machines, So I would be very careful, and I think we can't live economically only on the mood of the market.
Well, as a politician and as someone who's calling for the so-called moralization of the markets, you must be quite scared to see how powerless our politicians have become.
Well, we are not powerless. We could have power. We have to make decision of regulation. The problem is that the ideology of the market is also in the head of a lot of politicians. So we are powerless because we have a certain ideology, or we had long time that the market is rational. Now we understand the market is as irrational as human beings can be.
So what should we do? What should Europe do at this stage?
We should have institution of regulation of the market, and we should tax financial transaction. If you tax a very high financial transaction, short-term transaction, then you will regulate, you will cool down the steam, because it will cost the speculator or the investor, it will cost them money. If you buy something today and sell it tomorrow, and you have a high tax on this transaction, the people will start to think, to say, well, is it worth to do this because we will lose a lot of money?
But would, for instance, the United Kingdom agree to introduce such a tax on financial transactions?
Well, at the moment, I say I don't care. I think we should do it. We should do it, and if the Eurozone do it only, then do it of the Eurozone. We have to push also the egoism of the United Kingdom, because the United Kingdom, they want the butter of Europe, and they want to sell the same butter. They want to live with everything, it's not possible. The United Kingdom must, for once, understand things. Or you are in Europe, then you go with everybody, or you are not, so go out of Europe, but don't bother us, with your egoistic defense, of the city. Because it's not the United Kingdom, it's not the interest of the United Kingdom, it's the interest of the city in London. And this is, what angry me on the position of the United Kingdom.
You're also calling for the introduction of the so-called Euro bonds. Why do you think that this could help solve the crisis?
Well, because in the moment of the crisis, because the market are what they are, now they can speculate against the depth of one country. It can be today Greece, tomorrow, and then the interest rate You know, if they borrow money, it's going high and high, so they can never come out of the hole. So I want, with Eurobond, you know, you have a guarantee that for all Europe, we'll have for a part of your debt, 60% only of the debt, you will have common interest rate. And this would mean that instead of paying 8%, 9% like Greece today, they pay only 3.5%.
So then Germany would have to pay more, and that's a hard sell, of course, for Angela Merkel.
Yes, but Germany has also to pay more if Greece is going down the hole, because then they won't get their money back. You know, this is a short-term thinking, because it's only 60% of the debt, you know, so it will be the Greek must, you know, continue their adjustment, because 40% of the debt they have to put it on the normal market. But we give them a chance, and Germany has an interest that Greece or Spain or Ireland has a chance, because we need this market. Germany needs this market to export.
Well, Daniel Cohn-Bendit, as you said, once again at the center of the crisis is Greece. Greece last week said that it would fail to meet its public deficit target for this year, saying that the recession is actually much bigger than it thought, and that has, of course, derailed the budget of Athens. Now we're going to watch our report brought to us by a correspondent in Greece.
The anti-fraud call center is in overdrive. With the economic crisis, there have been 4 times more calls denouncing tax evaders.
There are days when we get more than 200 calls in just a few hours. We've registered close to 20,000 calls in the last year. Most of them are providing information on businesses that aren't giving out receipts, or homes with undeclared pools. Tax evasion is a national sport.
Once management gives its green light, investigators are sent on the chase. Inspector Kostas Arvanitis is visiting an Athens toll booth. His mission? To track down drivers who fail to pay value-added tax. Things get heated starting with his first inspection.
A 3,000 euro fine and a suspended license? I'll take you to court. Shame on you.
This undertaker only declares 1/4 of his services to the state, a common occurrence in Greece. But now authorities are trying to put a stop to it.
The Greeks must understand the government can no longer run on empty, so we're laying down the law. This man's clients pay him, but he doesn't pass on the value-added tax to the state. That's fraud. We carry out inspections everywhere, in gas stations, big businesses, bars, restaurants, and sometimes we get quite a reaction.
These tax evasion audits leave many Greeks infuriated. The population is fed up with the last 2 years' austerity measures.
The Greeks are going to explode. Soon there'll be a civil war. People will denounce their neighbors. The real culprits, the politicians, they aren't doing anything. It's up to us, the little guys, to pay. They're pillaging the Greek people.
Despite facing so many tax evaders, these inspectors remain optimistic. But off camera, they admit they wish mindsets would adapt more quickly and in the right direction.
Daniel Cohn-Bendit, we heard these Greek people quite fed up, resenting all these austerity measures. Now, 2 years ago, when we imposed this diet, this austerity diet, surely we didn't know that it would bring about another recession. Was it actually a good idea to impose such a harsh diet to Greece? Haven't we made matters worse?
You should have taken my speech in the European Parliament years ago, where it won't work. And it can't work. You have, you know, the debts. You can't force Greece, you know, to recover in 2 or 3 or 4 years. It's mad. It's impossible. So you have to give them time. Austerity is necessary, but also a recovery of the economy. So this takes time. And I think that tax evasion is also a real problem for the big one. And the big one is you have really to lift, you know, the bank, to leave the possibility that the bank has to declare if a Greek put money wherever in Europe, it should be declared to the government that they can prove if tax has been paid or not, you know. I think this is one of the main things for the Greek, you know, not only the little people who are really doing tax evasion, but also the big one, and the big one do it in Europe, doing in the banks in Europe or offshore. So you have to fight this also, and we have to force Greece you know, to reduce the military budget. You know, it's completely, the military budget is in percentage, it's double than the German one, you know.
So you're saying the government is not doing enough to try and clear the mess
We
at home?
are not talking enough with the government. We don't do it. We don't open, you know, the secrecy of banks, you know, for tax evasion in European bank. Luxembourg don't do it. Austria don't do it. So a lot of people are not doing their work, and you have to put the recovery of Greece on a longer term. You can't force Greece to do it in 2 or 3 years. This is quasi impossible.
Let's move on to a completely different story, Libya. Now, some editorialists called the military intervention in Libya Sarkozy's war. I will probably make you laugh, I guess, but in a way, would you say that the French president turned out to be a bit of a visionary there, as we see that the rebels are now controlling Tripoli?
Well, the first one who called for an intervention was in the European Parliament, before Sarkozy said a word. You know, so this is one thing. Second, I want to say it's a war of the Libyan. Sarkozy, you know, was a friend of Gaddafi. 2 years later, they sell him weapons. In the last 2 years, France sell him weapons. The problem is that with the Libyan revolution, then in a certain moment, Sarkozy had the right move with Cameron. But because of the fight of the Libyans, so it is the Libyans' war against Gaddafi and not Sarkozy's war. And then NATO did a good job, right? I was defending the intervention, so it's not a problem. The problem is that Europe, for years, include Sarkozy, include Cameron, include England, include everybody. You know, we had good relation with Libya because we want to push back the refugees, and Libya was taking them. We had a good relation because we got oil. Italy was paid by Libya, etc. So I would be ashamed, you know, as European government, you know, for the help that we gave to Libya in the last 10 years, if you want. And if you are ashamed, then you can say that in the last minute of the game, the last 5 minutes of the game, then there was the right move by Sarkozy and Cameron, pushed by a certain part of the public opinion.
Now, what do you do with Syria? We know that Europe last week imposed an oil embargo on the country, which could, of course, have a bit of an effect there. But what do you do?
Well, I think the problem of Syria and military is a different one. Yes, it's a different, because you have to really have in mind that it was at the end an armed resistance of the Libyan, what you don't have in Syria. In Syria, it keeps to have a pacific protest. No, we have to, and oil embargo is right. We should make more economic embargo to show to the elite, commercial elite in Aleppo, with the commercial heart of Syria, you know, that they won't come out with Assad, so that they join the protest. If the commercial elite, and then we could drive on the split in the military, then you will have the end of Assad. So economic isolation of Syria is the right answer now to help the protesters.
Last time we met, you had very harsh words towards Lady Ashton, the High Representative of the European Union. Would you say that in this particular case, for instance, Syria, she has found her marks and has had her voice heard?
I would say she found some marks. What is not bad, because before she had none. So it's a clear improvement. Yes, but she must more and more understand that her task is to push the European government, you know, to be and also to accelerate, even if there are conflicts, you know. Perhaps she should provoke more conflict with the government to push them, because we are turning around. So, but in Syria, they are going in the right direction. Now, what I want to see, what will the European do 21 of September with the declaration for the Palestinian state? You know, there she should push the contradiction in Europe, you know. She should say to the Dutch, she should say to the Polish, you can't now make your own politics. You have to come and to support the European position of supporting the Palestinians.
Let's go back to one of your two nations, France. There, your party, Europe Écologie, the Green Party, has recently endorsed former magistrate Eva Joly to represent the Greens at the forthcoming presidential election. Was this the best choice? Are you confident that she will score well?
Well, it was the choice of the majority of the people who wanted or who choose it, of the party. No, it's like this. We will see now. We have to. She is a candidate, and we will see now how it will work. You know, it's very difficult 8 months before to say this or that. Now we have to wait for the socialist candidate, and then we will see in the future, you know, how this campaign will develop.
A bit of a provocation. Does the French president Nicolas Sarkozy deserve a second term in office?
On my opinion, no. He deserves a long life parents' relief. You know, he will be father, and I hope that he will have the time to be with his child. I don't know if it will be a son or a daughter, you know, as long, all the day long. So I wish for his kids, you know.
So early retirement for Sarkozy?
Early retirement, that he will be a good father and will be every time cycling with his kids and going, buying lollies for his kids, you know, going out with his kids. This is my vision for Sarkozy. He deserves to have time to be a good father.
And my last question, we know that you feel closer to the left, of course, in France. Are the socialists ready, despite the DSK scandal, despite all the divisions, are they ready to rule this country?
You know, opposition is never ready. And the majority is neither ready. You know, we will see. You know, I think now the opposition deserve and should take over responsibility in France. And by eating, you will see if you're ready to eat the the cake, you know. I can't say yes, but now we will see. There will be primaries, and then we will see, you know.
And who is best equipped in your view? Is it Martine Aubry or François Hollande?
I don't know. I don't know.
No idea?
No, I don't know. Both have good and problematic side. And the winner will have a kick. So let's have the primaries, and then we'll see what they do with the kick.
Danielle Cohn-Bendit, co-chair of the Green Party here in the European Parliament. Thank you very much for being our guest in this new edition of Talking Europe. Well, thank you for watching our program. Please stay tuned on France 24 for more news. Goodbye.